In the next 3 lessons, we're going to look at the past tenses. So, past simple, past continuous, and present perfect. Now, just like we did with the present, we'll take each tense and divide it into 3 parts. Part 1 will be the example uses. Part 2 will be the verb conjugations, so question and negative forms. And part 3 will be the practice exercises. Do remember also that there is a lesson on irregular verbs. So let's get started with past simple. And examples of past simple are I arrived, she asked, and they lived. Now we make past simple with the verb arrive, ask, and live plus ed, as you can see here. So let's look at some example uses. And there are 3 examples here. Number 1, Shakespeare wrote 38 plays. Number 2, Emily was born in 1984. And number 3, we sold our house last week. Now, if I ask you what all of these examples have in common, the answer is that each action, wrote, was, and sold, finished in the past. So, when we say Shakespeare wrote 38 plays, it's obviously finished in the past. In the same way, was born in 1984 and sold our house last week are also finished in the past. Now, do notice that there are also 2 time expressions on this page. And the first one is here, in 1984, and the second one is here, last week. Let's look at a few more time expressions for past simple. Here we have earlier, which is in the past, obviously. We could also say this morning in the past sense. We can even have today. You might say this in the evening, talking about the morning and afternoon. Going back in time, we have yesterday. Going back further, we have last week, month or year. We can also have in 1989, in the 18th century, and so on. And finally, we can have 2 years, days, hours ago. So those are some common time expressions for past simple. And we have seen that we use past simple for finished actions in the past. Let's turn now to verb conjugations. And we're going to look again at our 2 example verbs, to live and to be. And as before, we'll look at them in the positive, in the question, and in the negative forms. So starting with to live in the positive form, I, you, he, she, it, we, and they lived. Don't forget the D. In the question form, we have something, I, you, he, she, it, we, they, and that is did I live? No D. Remember that. Not did I lived, did I live? And the negative form, I, you, he, she, it, we, they did not live. If we want to use the informal, we would say didn't live. So that's to live. Let's now look at to be. In the positive, I, he, she, it was, and you, we, they were. Question form now, and for I, he, she, it, we would say was I, and for you, we, they, we would say were you. So the difference between the positive and the question is simply swapping around the words. And finally, the negative form. I, he, she, it was not, and you, we, they were not. For the informal, here we would say I wasn't, and here we would say you, we, they weren't. So those are the verb conjugations for past simple, and that's the end of the lesson. Here is the PDF for the lesson. As you can see, we have the time expressions, we have the verb conjugations for you to revise, and we have the example sentences from the beginning of the lesson to remind you of how to use it. Join me in part 3 for the practice exercises.